If God is the creator of the universe, all-powerful and self-existent, then here's a strange question. Why does life in our universe seem to depend on delicate physical laws that God apparently had to get just right? This is the heart of the fine-tuning argument. The idea is that many constants in physics, the strength of gravity, the speed of light, the charge of the electron, have to be just right in order for life to exist. And that precise balance, the argument says, suggests a designer, a cosmic engineer, a God who wants life to exist. As Matthew Adelstein puts it in his recent debate with Matt Dillahunty,
God, being good, wants valuable stuff to exist, so he'd set the constants to whatever value is needed for life.
But to me, the phrase God set the constants to whatever value is needed for life is theological nonsense, turning God into a non-God. Here's what I mean. In classical theism, God isn't just any old designer. He's supposed to be a being with aseity, meaning God is totally independent, self-existent, doesn't depend on anything outside of himself, unlike a human engineer who is constrained by the limits of his own intellect, limited by the materials available and by the physics they have to work within. So here's the tension. If God needed to get the constants just right so life could exist, then doesn't that suggest some standard of physics, some framework of possibility that God had to conform to and work within? But if God is the author of possibility itself, then it shouldn't matter what the constants are. Such a being could just declare that life emerges no matter what. To say God has to follow rules is to turn God into a mouse that has to find its way out of a pre-existing maze outside of its control to get to the cheese, i.e. life. But for God, there is no maze. There are no walls. There are no rules. Anything is possible as that being decides what is possible in the first place. Thinking electrons? Done. Or as Hans Halvorsen put it in Phil Halper's video on the fine-tuning argument,
fine-tuning arguments strike me as very unprincipled in where they're willing to have omnipotence play a role. So you could imagine, for example, a really wild scenario where like God just said, well, I don't need to go to any of this trouble to have there be assembled atoms and molecules and then biological systems, and why not just take something like electrons and endow them with consciousness? I mean, God can do that, right? As soon as you say God can't do that, I think the theistic arguer is in a very hazardous situation.
The fine-tuning argument depends on the idea that certain laws had to be just so, which makes sense if there's an external standard to God, that if God doesn't follow it, the outcome will not be life. But classical theism insists that God is the standard. Nothing outside of him dictates what's possible or necessary. If anything, the way the universe operates, and its complexity, remember, the hallmark of good design is simplicity, not complexity. Both of these things are actually more evidence for naturalism. As Sean Carroll put it in the same video by Phil Halper,
if you think that there is fine-tuning for the constants of nature in our universe to allow for the existence of life, this is excellent evidence in favor of naturalism as opposed to theism. Because if you think about it, in theism, God can do whatever God wants. God is not constrained by the laws of physics. God does not need the laws of physics to allow certain physical configurations to exist in order for there to be life. God is infinitely powerful. God can do whatever. The only theory under which the physical conditions need to be exactly right to allow for complex chemical reactions in biology and life and so forth is naturalism. It's under naturalism that you need the constants to have the right values in order for life to exist. Under theism, life could exist under any conditions whatsoever.
I couldn't have said it better myself. so I'm not even going to try to. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment and a like, and see you next time.